Hello. So this is an exercise video for anybody that has attended NROL with it 1. So basically what we're going to run through is a basic session, one of the sessions that you've already done. So this should be for patients that have already completed NROL with it 1. I'm going to go through some of the exercises as best as I can. Things to be aware of: make sure you've got a suitable footwear on, that you're wearing pendant alarms, or you've got a mobile phone close by just in case of any emergency. That you have your walking aids close by, and you may well need either your walking aid or a table at some point. So if at that point you need it, I will tell you, and you can always pause the video, find what you need, and then we can do the exercises together. What I'll try and do is I'll time the exercise as I go along, so that you can follow it with me. I'll complete the exercises in the same time space, for example a minute or 30 seconds of each exercise. Some of the stretches might just be a number of repetitions. I will try and describe ways to make things harder, ways to make things easier if you are struggling, and make sure you push yourself to the point where you feel you're safe, but you do feel like you're exerting yourself as well. And you should be aware of what levels you can push yourself to from the classes that you've already done. Okay? So what we'll start off with is we'll just start off with our warm-up. So we can do it in sitting or we can do it in standing, whichever you feel more comfortable. I'll do it in sitting. And then once we've done the warm-up, we'll go through the main session. And again, it'll be similar to things you've already done before. So sitting down your chair, we're going to grasp them hands together and we're going to reach up and reach down 5 times. So up to the ceiling, down to the floor, just as low as you can. So just where you feel comfortable. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So again, with that one, with your hands together, if you've got a weaker arm or an arm that's a little bit sore, just take it where it's comfortable. We're just thinking about stretching up and leaning forwards as well. So the next one, hands together again, and we'll do a rotation. So we'll do 5 of them. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, next we're just going to get them legs going a little bit, so we're just going to do 30 seconds of marching. I've just set my timer up. Okay, so when we're ready, we can hold onto the chair if we need to, so we're just marching them feet, getting them knees as high as we can, and just tapping them on the floor. If we're struggling to lift feet, we could always do heel raise, up and down, like that. But ideally, if we can lift them up a little bit, just get them knees marching. And we're going to do that for 30 seconds. And we'll keep working it. Getting them knees up nice and high, trying to keep them straight up in front if we can. Trying not to let it come out to the side. We're beeping, but we'll carry on a little bit longer. Good, and then rest there. Okay, the next one we're going to do some arm movements. Maybe slightly different to the ones we've done in the class, but just different movements of the arm just to get them warmed up as well. Again, if you've got a weaker arm, you can always assist it with the other hand, or just raise it to the level that you can, or just practice it on the unaffected arm or the stronger arm if you're struggling with any of the movements that we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to do sort of 5 to 10 repetitions of each. So the first one is arms in the air, so we're going to do 10 of them. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay? Once we've done 10 of them, we're going to do 10 out to the side. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? Last one we're going to do in front of us. Like we can do punches or arm pushes in front, and we're going to do 10 of them as well. So we can go from the chest and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so we'll just stop there a second. So that's the main part of the warm-up, just to get your upper body and lower body working a little bit. We're now going to move into the main session, and what we're going to do is work on sit to stand, and then we're going to progress into standing, do some exercises in standing, and then kind of work from there, and then we'll go into the cool down at the end. Okay, so the first one is just working on the first part to sit to stand. I'm just going to set my timer, because we're going to aim to do sort of a minute on each of these exercises. So the first one we're thinking about is just pelvic tilting, but before we do that we want to make sure, I've just turned my chair around so you can see, but basically we're going to make sure we've shuffled a little bit to the edge of the chair, so our feet are nice and flat on the floor, and as you can see my heels are slightly further back underneath me. Feet are sort of hip width apart, and we've got a nice stable base there as well. Okay. So with this one, we can put hands on hips, we can put arms in there, whatever you feel comfortable, but basically this is the first one that we normally do, which is the pelvic tilt. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit up nice and tall, and then we're going to slouch back. So if I put my arms out of the way, you can see what movement we're getting. So we're going to do a minute of that, so when you're ready, off you go. We're growing tall, and slouching back. Growing tall, and slouching back. And as you can see when I'm doing it, you can just see it's coming from my lower back and my pelvis. My upper body and my hips and my knees and my feet aren't really moving very much. So we're really trying to get that pelvic tilt. It's almost like, imagine it's a bucket, we're tipping water out the front, tipping water out the back, tipping water out the front, tipping water out the back. I'm just going to keep repeating that for a minute. Again, if you want to do it with arms in air, you can do it with arms in air. You can do it with arms in front. Or again, we can do it with our hands on hips, so we can actually feel the pelvis moving as well. So hands on the top of our pelvis there and just helping tilt it. You can use your thumbs a little bit to kind of guide yourself through the movement as well. Okay, so that's a minute doing that one, so that's spot on. Okay, so the next one now we're going to progress into sort of a forward lean, and then into a stand. With this exercise, I would probably put either your walking aid in front of you, or a table if you're possible, so if you've got a dining table or something that's at a reasonable height. What I'm going to use is a plinth, but similar sort of thing. Basically this is just so that we can kind of get that forward weight through our feet and down through our heels. I'm just going to grab the plinth and pop it in. So again, you want to be sat on your chair, and you want a reasonable distance so you can sort of reach in front, so there's a gap between your knees in the beginning of the table or whatever you've got in front of you. Again, like I say, you can use your walking aid, but sometimes it's a bit easier because if you've got a table you can actually slide on it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just actually going to work on just getting some weight through our feet, so by leaning forward. So we're not going to lift our bottom off, we're just going to progress into sort of that early part just before you stand up, just so we can start getting some weight through our heels. And again, we're going to do that for a minute, so we can use our walking aid or our table in front, and literally all we're going to do is just slide forwards, get some weight through our heels, and slide back. Slide forwards and back. So we just feel like we're just before we're about to lift our bottom up, push down through our feet. So we're just sliding forwards and back. And again, you can do this as fast or slow as you like, remembering to keep your balance and remembering then position. Feet slightly underneath us, sat on the edge of the seat as well. Again, sliding forwards and back, and we'll just practice that, getting comfortable there. Quite a nice movement for your shoulders as well, so if your shoulders are a little bit stiff, it will help with that a little bit as well. We're just sliding forwards and back. Okay, 10 more seconds of that one. Okay, so that's a minute on that one. Okay, so the next exercise is now we're going to do a little bottom lift. Okay, so again we can use a table in front, our walking aid in front, and we're not lifting really high, but we want to slide it forwards. I'm just going to adjust this slightly because I probably need it a bit higher for me. So same again, we've got feet hip width apart, heels slightly underneath knees and bottom to the edge of the seat. Okay, we've got hands in front of us, and all we're going to do is slide forwards and just do a little lift and then come back down. And we want to do this reasonably quickly to get ourselves up because we need that momentum. If we do it too slowly, it'll be a lot of effort and we may then start to pull with arms. So it's almost kind of coming up and then back down, so we're almost using that. If you need to, you can use the edge of the table or your frame to kind of lean on a little bit. Just remember with your frame, because it's not as sturdy, it will tip. So essentially this is just for balance, okay? If we are really struggling to get that momentum to get up in that position, we can still use arms on chair, and it may work your arms a little bit, so you could adapt it by just doing this motion, okay? All I say there is once you then want to progress into a stand, our arms aren't long enough, so we'll get stuck in that position and we'll have to put hands on something. So again, just bear that in mind. But if we are struggling to kind of get a bottom lift in that position, it may be that you need to just come forwards that little bit more, or you may need to kind of get that momentum to get yourself lifted up. If we do it too slowly, like I say, it might be a bit of a struggle. So I'm going to do it with hands on here, but by all means, if you're really struggling, we can use hands here to kind of do that little lift. But the same thing applies, is that leaning forwards. What we just said, a lot of the time you'll hear describe nose over toes. Okay? So we'll go for a minute with this one. So when you're ready, off we go. So we'll lift up and then back down. And you can see the hands are sliding forwards and then back as we come down. And we're getting that weight forwards, that nose over toes, just to do that little bottom lift and back down. So it will work, really work your quads this, so you might feel your thighs burning a little bit, working hard as we're doing that one. So basically, essentially, it's that early part of sit to stand, working on that momentum and getting that lift off the seat. All the time we're trying to think weight through heels, trying to get the weight down, keep our feet flat on the floor. Again, if you've got a weaker leg, making sure we've got even weight through both feet, so we're nice and level and we feel like both legs are working together. Okay, couple more. I apologise if I'm going a little bit fast, so if you need to do it a little bit slower, don't worry, it's all about the time rather than number of repetitions you can do at the moment. Okay, and then we'll rest there. Between any of the sets, if you need an extra rest, you can just pause the video. If you need a drink, go and get a drink, but I'd recommend you bring a drink with you so you can kind of use it as you go along. Okay, so we want to feel like with some of the exercises that we will get a little bit out of breath, but then we can have a bit of a break in between, so we can have a bit of a breather if we need to. I'll try and pause a little bit because I'll be describing the exercises as well each time. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is we're actually then going to go into a full stand. So we're going to use it, the methods we've done already, to then progress into that full standing position. So we're going to sit to stand and then a stand to sit. Okay, so with this one it might take a little bit longer, and it may be that we kind of do it for 2 minutes because we are doing two elements to it. So we're doing the sit to stand, but then we're doing the stand to sit. So I'll talk through it first and then we'll do it together. I'll set my timer and we'll do it together. Okay, so again, same thing applies. If we've got somebody in front, we can use that. If we're struggling with that and we've not got anything there, or we're struggling to do that to the sit to stand or that bottom lift that we've just done, then we may well use hands on chair. So if I could use an example, you have your walking aid in front. So if you've got your frame in front, just move my chair over a little bit. So again, you could essentially do your usual thing of hands on here, lean forwards, hands onto frame, and then into standing. Okay, so if we can do, if you want to do it that way, you can do, but I sometimes find using something solid in front makes it a little bit better, and we get that momentum to get up. Okay, once we're in standing, then we're going to do the stand to sit. So with this, we've got to really think about not sticking our bum out first. We want to bend our knees first. So we're going to bend our knees almost into a squat position and then take our bottom back to the chair. Okay, I'm holding on here, but again, if you get to a point where you feel like you need to reach back, again, if your chair's got arms on, that might be helpful. So we bend our knees and we start to come back, we might want to then reach back with one hand to find it, to lower ourselves down. And the aim with that is it's nice and light, we're not dropping to the seat. We're trying to keep that control, bend the knees, take bottom back and control it down so it's nice and light on the seat. And we're trying to stay reasonably close to the edge because we're going to keep repeating it. If we go too far back, then each time we might need to shuffle forwards. Okay. So for my reference, I'll use the table that we're in front, but by all means you can do it that method that I just showed you there. Okay, so if we are going to use the table, we can pop hands on And we're going to do exactly what we've just done, sliding forwards into a stand, and then we're going to sit down, we're going to bend them knees first, take our bottom back, and then lower ourselves down. And again, it's similar if you're in that position, we get there, we bend our knees, we're taking our bottom back, but then we feel like we just need to find the chair, use one hand if we can. If you need to use two, that's fine as well. Okay? It's all about how we do it rather than, the quality of it. So we feel like we're controlled throughout and we're working reasonably hard. Again, we're trying to make sure we've got even weight through both legs are working reasonably well together. Okay? So what I'll do this time is I'll set it for 2 minutes, but by all means if you need to have a rest in that 2 minutes, then have a breathe if you need to. I'll try and do it continually just so you get an idea of what it's like. Okay, so when we're ready, off we go. So we're going up, and we're bending the knees and taking our bottom back to the seat. Slide forwards and up, bending our knees to come back to the seat. Forwards and up, bending our knees to come back to the seat. Okay. So we're just coming up to a minute mark. Okay. Like I said, we'll get to the minute. If we need to, we can have a little breather. So what I'll do, I'll just pause it there. Like I say, you can have your drink now, but then we're going to go back to it and do another minute. Okay? So again, pause the video if you need to get a drink. What I'll do is I'll carry on now. So for the second minute, we're doing exactly the same. Going up, into standing, bending their knees, taking bottom back and coming down. And again, the whole time we're thinking about that forward weight, that nose over toes, and that knee bend and bottom back to the seat nice and lightly on the seat. We don't want no dropping down to the seat. Okay, if you find you're dropping to the seat and you're just losing it, or you find you're really struggling to get up off that seat, maybe check out what seat you sat on and maybe find a seat that's slightly higher up. Because that should make it a little bit easier for both directions, going up and down. So just bear that in mind as well. It may be over time that then you progress back to a lower seat as you get stronger and you feel more stable as you're doing it. So it's just bearing them things in mind. So there's ways to make it easier, ways to make it harder. And again, we can use hands to push up. But ideally, if we can use something in front, I find that quite helpful. And that puts a lot more pressure down through your legs, makes your legs work harder, and your arms are really there just for sort of a balance and support. Okay, so that's the second minute done. So if we have a breather there a minute, and then we'll move on to the next one. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to do it in standing, and we're going to do some little squats in standing just to get them knees going a little bit more. And then we're going to progress on to some other movements in standing, so potentially working on a bit more strengthening for your legs, but also challenging that balance a little bit more as well. So with these ones, if you need your walking aid, by all means use your walking aid. If you've got a table there, you might be able to walk along the table and use a table as support, whether it's with one or two hands. Okay, but initially what we're going to do is just going to do a sort of some squatting in standing. What you can do as well is you can almost use it as a stand to sit, so you could do it as a bottom touch on the chair. So almost you're coming down, touching the chair and coming back up. I'll demonstrate that as well. So for those of you that really struggle to kind of come back down, if we just want to work on a little mini squat, we can do. So we could have hands on something in front for balance, feet hip width apart again, nice gap between them. We feel nice and stable there. We've got even weight through both legs, and all I want you to do is just do a little knee bend and then push back up. With that, we're trying to keep our upper body reasonably straight, and we're trying to keep our heels flat on the floor as we squat down. So we could do a squat like that, or if you're feeling pretty good and you feel like you can go a little bit lower, we could even go right down, touch the seat, and then straight back up. So it almost is a really deep squat, or we could again go somewhere in between, so almost in between, and then back up. Okay, so it's up to you, whichever one you feel comfortable doing. So we're going to do a minute of that one, so when you're ready, off you go. So we'll come down, touch, and back up. We'll do our little one, push back up. Again, it's your preference. I'm going to go somewhere in between. And we'll just keep working on that. Again, all the time trying to keep that weight through our heels, work them legs, should feel your quads and your glutes working a little bit, and we just keep working on that. Okay, again, if you need a bit of a rest, have a resting standing if possible. If you need to sit down, that's fine. Just remember, we're just doing it for a minute. So we've got 20 seconds left. 5 seconds. Okay, and that's done there. Okay, with this one now we can stay standing and we can carry on, or if you need to rest you can do, have a sit down. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on a little bit of movement for our legs, so a bit of stepping forward, stepping back and stepping to the side. Okay, there are variations to this, so we can use it as a strengthening exercise or as a balance exercise or both. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move this chair out of the way a little bit. Okay, for reference you can use support for this, so you may want to use your walking frame in front. Just bear in mind we're going to do a bit of stepping forward and a bit of stepping to the side, so you may need to manoeuvre around there. So you may find using sort of a table or something like that's a little bit easier to kind of manage that one. So I'll just show you now. I'll probably move it to the side here, just so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is we're going to hold on and we're going to practice stepping forwards, okay? So what I want you to do is just practice one step forwards and then a step back with the same foot, and then we'll repeat it on the other side. So we'll probably do a minute on each side and then we'll flip over and do a different exercise. So what I want you to do in standing is basically hold on to the support, whether it's your frame or a table in front. Give yourself enough room there so you can manoeuvre around. And basically we're going to step forwards, we're going to lean on that leg, and then we're going to step back. Okay? And we're just going to repeat the same. Forwards and back. Forwards and back. Forwards and back. So you can see the feet are pretty much coming back together. We're keeping that gap between them sort of hip width apart. Forwards and back. And you can see as I'm rocking forwards, that other heel's just lifting off ever so slightly. Okay, we can do a little pause there and hold it. And we can come back. Or we can do it a little bit quicker there and straight back. It's totally up to you. So we're going to do a minute on each side. Okay, so when we're ready, we'll step forwards and back. Forwards and back. If you're feeling extra confident, we can do it without hands, so forwards and back. And maybe you want some support at the side instead, so we can do the forward and back there as well. So if we put the table to one side, if we can manage with one hand, again, making sure whatever you're leaning on is pretty stable. Again, if you're going to do it forwards, then with your frame it should be fine, but I'd keep the frame in front. So we'll just keep going forwards and back. Like I said before, we can do a forward and we can hold it there and just keep our weight there, and then back down. Or we can do that a little bit quicker, forwards and back on there. Again, it's totally up to you, and work on it yourself. We've got 5 seconds left. Okay, and then rest there. Okay, so we're going to repeat exactly the same but on the other leg this time. Again, support if you need it, support to the side if that's helpful, maybe just on one side, or again, if you've got your walking aid and you want that in front, that's absolutely fine as well. Okay, so when we're ready, we're going to go over the other leg this time. So we step forwards and back. So with this as well, think about trying to get that heel to the floor first. If you're struggling to pick up that foot, trying to get a heel strike on the floor as we step that foot forwards. Heel strike and back. Heel strike and back. And what you might think about as well is that almost thinking put weight on my other leg to then step that one and then back, just so that we're able to take a nice step with that leg and the weight's off it. 10 seconds left. Five seconds. Okay, and then we finish with that one. Okay, so if you need to sit down, you can do, or I'll show you the next exercise. So the next one's going to be a side step. So what we'll do is we can have support to the side, support in front, or walking aid. Again, with walking aid it might be a bit more challenging, so it might be that you need something to the side or something in front for this one. So again, if you need to do that, then pause the video and you can find something and then press play again. Okay. So I'm going to have the support to the side for me, and all we're going to do is practice a side step. So we're just going to step to the side, weight on it, and then step back in. Step to the side, and back in. Step to the side, and back in. So again, with something to the side, you may find that you're not able to hold on to it fully, so you may prefer something in front. I'm not going to do that, otherwise you won't be able to see what my legs are doing, but just kind of imagine that for the time being. Okay, so we'll go for me, for my left leg, I'm going to step it to the side, but either or, we're going to do a minute to each side. Okay, so when you're ready, off you go. So to the side, and back in. To the side, and in. And again, we can do a little pause when we get there, and then bring it back in. So remembering, the other leg is staying stationary, it's staying where it is, and we're bringing the other leg away and towards that leg. Again, when you bring it back, don't bring it back too close together. We want to still keep that sort of hip width space between your feet, so you feel nice and balanced, so you don't feel like you're going to fall over. So we've got 20 seconds left. Okay, and that's that one done. Okay, next time, so this time we're going to do the other leg. I'm just going to move this out of the way so I've got a bit more room. But same thing applies again, use your support as you need to, what's suitable for you. Okay, so we're going to do the other leg this time, so stepping out, and back in, stepping out, and back in. And again, you can see when I do that, my weight comes off my other leg a little bit, and I tend to put a bit more weight on the leg I'm stood on. Again, you can do that if you feel stable. But if not, try and keep both feet flat on the floor if you feel a bit wobbly, so you can keep them flat like that, and then bring it back in. If you're feeling like you want to challenge your balance a little bit more, and you've got support around you, feel safe, then again, we can do that, and then take a bit of weight over a bit further. So almost essentially bringing weight onto this leg then, this leg, and then back off. So again, those of you who might have a leg that's weaker, again, we can adapt it if we need to, so we might just do a slide out and back in. But if we can get a little lift, then maybe just a smaller step. Just kind of bear that in mind as well. Okay. So that's the ones in standing. What we're going to do next is a little bit of reaching in standing, so challenging your balance that a little bit more. So basically, I want you to try and think about the position of your feet and what position is more challenging. Okay, so we're going to have varied positions that we can manage with, and some of these would have been done at the beginning, sort of with some of the measures that we did. Okay, so it may be that for you, standing like this is challenging enough, so we can stay in that position. Okay, it may be then for you that actually that's too easy and we can stand without support with feet hip width apart. Okay, so we may need to challenge it further. Okay. So find that position. So that position might be more challenging for you. You feel a little bit wobbly there, but you've got support around you, so you can touch onto it if you need to. Okay. If that's too easy, then the next progression would be putting your feet together. So for example, your feet would be together like that, touching in the middle. Again, we should maybe feel a little bit wobbly, but we're able to keep our balance. We may need to intermittently touch on support, but then we can take hands away and then work our balance there. Say for example, 5 to 10 seconds, we can maintain it there. Ideally probably 10 seconds, because we may do some other things while we stood there. Okay. Again, if that's too easy, then we can progress it slightly further. So our feet are together, but one foot slightly further in front. So for example, in that position, sorry, I'm turning it around so you can see it properly. So your feet are kind of like that. You can see down at my feet as well. Okay. So again, you may find what tends to happen is the leg that's behind takes most of the weight. So I would say with your weaker leg behind, it will be harder. With your stronger leg behind, it will be easier. Okay, so it's up to you which way around you do it. You may find with your weaker leg at the back it's hard, but you can still work there and it challenges you quite a lot, so that might be to work on. It may be that side is too wobbly, so you have to swap it round. Okay, again, if we can manage this for 10 seconds, this might be the point where we either stay at that. If we can manage longer than 10 seconds, then we may need to move on to something a little bit more challenging. Okay, so the next one might be foot in front of the other, so what we call a sort of a tandem or a tightrope stand. Again, the leg behind will be doing most of the work, so you may want to put your stronger leg behind initially and then try it with your weaker leg, and that might make things a little bit more wobbly. Okay, so with this, and what we can do is we can just practice in that position, and our aim is to maybe get to 30 seconds without having to touch support. Okay, so it could be in this position, could be in that position, could be in that position, or it could purely just be in a normal standing position. So our aim is to work for 30 seconds without having to touch support. So what we'll do now is if you put your feet in the position that you want to be in, that you feel will challenge your balance. And what I'll do is I'll set a timer for 30 seconds and we'll see if we can beat that time, okay? Or if we can get to the 30 seconds without having to put our hands on the support. Okay, if at any point you feel too wobbly, then make sure you put your hands on the support, and again you can place a chair behind you, just in case, so you feel wobbly, you touch the support, and then you can sit down and have a rest. Okay, again bear in mind if you're feeling too wobbly, then maybe forget about this exercise for now, and over the weeks you may then revisit it and try it again if you're feeling more stable on your feet. Okay, so I'll set a time for 30 seconds. I'm going to do tandem, but again you get in your position, one foot in front of the other, and we're just trying to keep our balance there. Okay, so we're just trying to keep it there, keep it there, keep it there. So our aim is to work on 30 seconds. Like again, think about it, if you feel like you're leaning to one side, rather than touch the support, can you move your body to readjust that position? So can you almost say, right, well I'll lean the other way and try and find my balance again. Again, thinking about knees as well, try not to lock the joints, maybe keep them a little bit softer at the knees so we can really work our thigh muscles, our quads and everything else. So that was 30 seconds. What we'll do is we'll reset and we'll do that again. So you may want to change your foot position if that was too challenging, or if it was too easy then you can progress it on to the next one. Okay, so again I'm going to do it the other way around this time. So again, if you found it quite easy with your stronger leg behind, maybe try it with a weaker leg behind. But again, bear in mind there's a chair there and you've got support around you if you need to touch on for support. Okay, so again, same thing applies. We'll do 30 seconds there, so kind of keep our balance there in that position for as long as we can. It may be that you need to put arms out a little bit just to correct that balance a little bit. And what I would advise is try not to fix on anything with your eyes. So obviously that might make it easier, but we don't want to compensate with our eyes. So we want to still be able to move our head a little bit, move our eyes a little bit around the room so that we don't feel like we're having to stay completely still. Okay. And what we might do is move on to some things around that as well as the sessions go on, and as we do more videos as well. Okay, that was 30 seconds again. Again, just see how we get on. This is definitely one you can do as homework. So you can do this at home. You can practice it while you're making a cup of tea, when you're in the kitchen, when you're brushing your teeth. Just practice that position just to work on your balance a little bit more. And again, I would say aim for the exercise that you can manage maybe for 10 seconds, but maybe not for much longer. And our aim is to get to 30 seconds. Once you can do 30 seconds and you're confident without having to use support for your hands, and your feet are quite stable, then you may then move on to the next exercise that's slightly more challenging. Okay, so that's kind of the way to work it. If you're still struggling, then just stay at that one and just keep working on it. A lot of this is repetition and practice. And again, thinking about not having to fix with head and don't feel like everything has to be really rigid to be able to keep that balance. We need an element of flexibility so we can move around and look around while we're doing it. Okay, so if you find maybe, for example, with one of them that you're struggling, even if it's just a basic one where your feet are together and you're still really wobbly, then it maybe then we can start looking, rather than kind of doing anything else, maybe just doing some head movements in that position instead, and we can have a little bit of support. But again, we can change that as we need to, and again, just consult your physio if you're not sure about what you should be doing as well. Okay, so that is the end of the session. I'm going to leave out one of the fitness aspects, and I'm going to do that as a separate video. Okay, and I may do variations to it each time, and we can kind of use different ones. So what we'll do now is we'll do a cool down and we'll finish off the session. So a lot of it is going to be similar exercises that we did before, just to give us a little bit of a stretch just to finish off. Okay, so we're just going to do our hands together, hands grasped together, and we're going to reach up to the ceiling and give it a nice stretch again. Just go as far as you can, and then down to the floor. Up to the ceiling again, and then down to the floor. the floor. 2 more. And 1 more. Okay, and then we'll do our rotation. I think that's 3. Good, okay. And then what we'll do is just do a little bit with our arms, just loosening them off a little bit, and our legs as well. So we might want to do some leg slides to the front and back, just to loosen them legs off a little bit. Just to stretch them a little bit and just loosen them off after that exercise that we've just done. Okay, we can always put it in front and just have a little lean forward just to stretch that leg a little bit, just where it's comfortable. And then shake our legs off, shake our arms off, and then we'll finish there. So that is essentially one of the exercise sessions for NROL with 1. Like I said at the beginning, I would advise people to only practice these once they've already done the NROL with it 1 program, so the 6 sessions as part of NROL, and this is kind of a way to kind of self-manage and progress and continue to work on some of the exercises we've done in this session. Our aim is to potentially build more videos over time, so watch this space, and like I said, we're going to do a bit of a fitness one using the sort of music along to exercise separately, so you can do that at your own pace as well. Okay, so thanks for watching, and hopefully see you soon. See you later.